So a couple of days ago I uploaded a video of my Keeper Whip, which is the character from The Evil Within. If you're not a fan of The Evil Within or never played the game, I highly recommend it because it's just absolutely amazing. Basically, imagine Resident Evil crossed with Silent Hill. Now, the Keeper character is literally like the Pyramid Head from Silent Hill, except with a safe on his head, not a triangle pyramid head. So I finally finished everything on this costume, including the head, the hammer, the apron, the backpack. Everything was completed. I figured I'd do a talk on how I actually made this, and the cost and how long it would take. It took me at least 3 days and cost me probably less than $10. And no, I'm not joking. Everything out of him is actually made from cardboard and foam, as well as some pieces of yarn for the fake barbed wire. Now, of course, I could have gone the professional way and done it with metal, or aluminium steel, or even foam, but for a test run, I wanted to use cardboard because it was cheap, it was easy, I had a lot laying around, and it just sort of felt right to go that way. It also ended up saving me a lot of money because you can buy cardboard boxes for free. And if you have the right tools and techniques, you can quite easily make cardboard waterproof. But I wouldn't suggest going to Waterworld and having to splash in this costume. It won't end well, trust me. So I'll start off by talking about the head, or the safe. In-game, the character, the Keeper, wears a safe head, which we have no idea what's beneath the safe head, besides some tentacle things that try to take over Sebastian's head and decapitate him or suffocate him. In fact, we'll never know, but basically I felt like it was going to take his head in return. So originally when I started doing this costume, I thought, hey, I'm going to have it where the front part of the safe is actually opened and you're just going to be able to see this red, goopy, fabricy stuff with some weird tentacles coming out. That way would have enabled me to be able to see. However, I realised there was a much more easier and less painful processing way to do things. So to be able to see, I actually see from this. Which, it looks really weird and not exactly how he is in game, but it works for me anyway. Basically, I cut out some cardboard pieces on here and here, I put them on together, they're all hot glued on, there's nothing else, there's no nails or hammers or anything else that was involved in making this. It was all just hot glued, basically everything on this costume is just hot glued on. And what I did from there was, once I got the effect of having these knob parts, I had some black lycra leggings. I cut them up and I used it in the back of here so that when I do this, you can't see my hand that's moving around. But when you're inside the box, you can see quite easily. So for me, that worked out quite well. The other concept idea that I ditched midway through this was the fact that I was originally going to be using cardboard pieces to do the end. However, I ditched it because I was both lazy and I figured it wasn't going to look very nice with these thick cardboard pieces that just didn't match right in. So instead I went with detailing because it was a lot easier. It's not exactly accurate, but it does sort of sit nicely and has a nicer look to it. But I'm not saying that it's going to beat the official, proper, professional cosplayers out there that do this stuff. Now, I didn't use any templates or anything. All I had in my mind was the idea of how things were, as well as the concept art on my phone. So I really didn't give myself much time. All I knew was on the sides he has more of a rectangular shape and on the front it's a little bit more of a square shape. So with that, I just sort of took some pieces of cardboard, I started to trace out and outline them, and then I went from there. How I did the side was I realized that I needed to be able to also put my head up in here, so you'll see on the side bottom part I have this here, so you won't be able to see my chin or anything. And I also ended up putting the curve in there because of my shoulders, because I thought, well, that's going to be easier. Funny thing is that that is actually how the Keeper's head is designed, so I was really grateful that my idea and concept of what I was doing was following the exact concept rules of what was in game, as well as the concept art, of course. So how did I make cardboard be semi-waterproof? Well, I actually found this black paint that has epoxy and waterproof lining in it. So it's basically like a primer, but just in the paint style. I took this primer and I basically painted over this 2 layers so it had a really nice black effect. Then I also got a primer spray and I sprayed it in silver, so that's how I sort of got this blacky silver look here. Then I took some cheap acrylic and basically I just did the detailing in with the black. I added in some markings here and there, so you'll see some faint detailing on the area or where the cardboard's being pushed in. I used that to sort of define his features a little bit, and keyword on features, because we all know this really isn't the Keeper's head, or is it? However, moving on to the fake barbed wire. Now yes, you can buy fake barbed wire on eBay, but it is quite expensive. I looked up a tutorial on how to make fake barbed wire, and I'm going to tell you guys sort of how I did it. Basically, you're going to want some yarn, you're going to want some paint that's either a grey or a brown, and you're also going to want some PVC glue, which in this case, using yarn, I decided that I'd use PVC particular for fabric, so it actually has a stronger hold on fabric type material. Now what I did was I mixed the paint and the PVC together, and with gloves on my hands, I dipped the majority of the wool into the little container that I had everything in. I sort of thinned it all out, made sure that it wasn't going to have big giant goops of God knows what on the yarn, and I let it dry outside. In fact, the process is fairly easy and it doesn't take a lot of time. Basically, leave it out in the sun for about an hour or so, come back out, check on it, and bring it back inside. But keep in mind, I didn't do the knots or the fake barb parts for that. What I actually did was I had a separate string already done, and when it was all dried, I cut it up and I tied it on and around on the yarn part that I already done, and that just stuck there. Then of course, as you guys can see, I used some faint detailing on paint to give it more of a shine look to it, so it's a lot more defined from the grey black paint that's already on the head. Now to make this fit on my head, as you guys will notice, there's some foam on the inside. Now I have this up on the back so that my head actually is resting and it's not going to be like wobbling on the back. And I also have a chin part here so that it's going to stabilize where the head sits and it's not going to be wobbling in front. You'll also see up the top there's some padding so that then it's going to be sitting on my head. It's not going to be putting too much pressure in it and it's not going to be causing the box to move around. So for this costume, I can still wear my glasses, I can be awesome, and I can wear a really cool looking bandana. So to show you guys really simple how I get into this, it's just absolutely easy. And there you have it. Moving on to the backpack. Now, the backpack I had some issues with because I knew I had to make some prong or steel pieces that were popping up. I knew I had to have the barbed wire, which I used the exact same process as what I did on the head with the faking barbed wire. Everything on here is basically cardboard, but this part was probably going to be the worst part that I was afraid of. Now, the reason for this is, yet again, cosplay conventions have their own guidelines and rules. If I had have made everything out of aluminium steel, I wouldn't have been able to go to a convention because it would have been considered a lethal weapon because it has sharp pointed ends and it could have hurt someone or poked out someone's eye. So that's also the other reason why I used cardboard. But you can also use either foam, which is a lot more easy, and I will be eventually doing that for the head. However, moving on to the prong pieces or fake steel parts. What I actually did, and you guys probably won't be able to notice it a lot, is that these are pens. I know, not real pen, but like the shell of a pen. So I basically pushed the pens down and I hot glued them in. I took out the inner part so that wasn't going to be still in there because it's not going to look good when you have ink leaking from out of this. And of course, as you guys notice, it's not really a pointed end. It does sort of move a little bit, but they're not going to go anywhere. Yet again, with the rest of everything, I made the fake barbed wire and I also bloodied it up a little bit, added some more details. I yet again used acrylic paint for the detailing. Being cardboard, I also did this exact same process with the head as using the epoxy and waterproofing it. And the hilarious thing is, and you guys will know when I take this off, I'm an Xbox supporter. So yes, this is formerly an Xbox console box, which surprisingly worked really well with the length and everything that I needed and width. The other reason why this is hollow at the current moment, with this being a stabilizer, is because I want to get a sound box so that when I'm walking around, it's going to be able to move and make the sounds that the Keeper does from the game. So if you see this and you can see inside and you can see the Xbox part, which hopefully you shouldn't be able to, that's probably one of the reasons why it's like that. The other thing is the straps, which you guys probably know, they're not leather or anything like that. They're actually a plastic piece that I found, and I decided that I'd recycle them, make them look like leather straps, and they actually sit quite well. So, yet again, like the box said, I'll show you guys how I just simply put it on, much like a usual backpack. So that's how simple and easy it is to put this on and take it off, and it looks really good with everything on. Now, of course, if you watched my other video, you probably would have seen how I actually made the apron all bloody. Now, I know the apron is an industrial leather plasticky apron that he actually wears in game, but it was almost the cheapest one that I could find, and I already had it made up, so I basically turned it inside out and put a whole heap of fake blood over it, which yet again, it may not be exactly accurate, but it's what I could do at the current time. And now for the final piece to end this video off, in probably the most awesomest yet thing that took the most longest time to make, is the hammer. Now this is all made out of foam, and if you already guessed it, it's made from the foam that you find in your Xbox when you get it out. Now, you'll see here on the sides there are some pieces which are part of how I had to fill it in those weird little gap parts that you have, you know, where your Xbox usually slips in. Now, the Kapus Hammer is very interesting, and there's a lot on it that, yet again, it took a lot of time. So I had to sort of plan things out with how I was going to make the hammer base part, and then how I was going to end up making the front part, which was probably, again, one of the most trickiest things I ever had to do with this costume. So basically, this part here, to talk it over, and the handle part is bandages that I covered in fake blood. I made the barbed wire out of, as I said earlier, yarn. But the trickiest part was getting the foam to work together. Then again, I also did this with some epoxy paint, so that it was going to be a little bit more waterproof and stable. I also ended up hot gluing these things on. If you were questioning about how the fake barbed wire sits on, it's just hot glued on in some areas. And as for the front hammer parts, you guys see they're pointy, but they're not that pointy. Now, yet again, when you have costuming characters that have weapons like these, you've got to make sure that the weapon is going to be both light, which using foam, this is going to be really light. No pointy ends, so it's kind of sort of got a pointy end, but because it's foam, I can easily get away with it. It's not going to stab someone, and it's definitely not going to poke an eye out, and God help us if it does, because then I'd be like, okay, what the hell is going on here? But the second hardest part, besides getting the base part right, was going to do the spikes. Basically, during the start, I thought, you know what, I'll just do the exact same thing with the head, I'll just paint on the detailing. But then I realized in photos, if I've got it on the side, you guys are going to notice that pretty fast. So what I did was I found some craft foam paper, which is a thin sheet of foam, and I kind of sort of cut it up and made it round on the ends. So if I show this to you guys up front, you'll be able to see the detailing up here where I actually joined them in. Yet again, everything on this is basically hot glued. So then after I did all of this and hard work, I finally painted off doing the final details of blood and things like that, and the costume was finished. And that took all 3 days, and it costed $0 for me, minus $10 for a can of spray paint primer. So if you're an awesome person, you want to cosplay something like the Big Daddy, or Big Sister, or even the Keeper, or Pyramid Head for that sake, you don't have to have a lot of money and go out and buy a Warbler or EVA foam. In fact, it's so simple to use simple things like cardboard, make it waterproof using epoxy and waterproof base paint, and using pieces around the house that are basically like packaging for packing away boxes like consoles. So in the end, it cost $0 to basically make this costume. I'm pretty proud of it because it's basically the second costume I've built from nothing. So if you're a fan of The Evil Within, or you haven't played it yet, gotta play it because it's so awesome, then you're probably going to be looking forward to seeing this costume out in action, which, yes, is going to happen at Oz Comic Con Sydney this year. So thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for some more awesome costumes that will be coming up in the future, and as always, stay cool.